to the Prophecy Club. We've got a good friend on today, and I'm very excited to have him come in and speak here for the Prophecy Club. He's actually going to be making 3 DVDs. We have in the newsletter he's going to be making 2 DVDs, but we worked it out so he's going to be making a 3rd DVD. Now, here's the situation. He's going to be making one called Mythology, UFOs, and Strong Delusion, Saturday afternoon, July 20th. Then that evening from 7 to 10:30, he's going to be making one on The Rise of Babylon, 322, Tetrads, and the Time of Jacob's Trouble. His name is Rob Skiba. He's the author of 2 books, the creator, writer, producer for the forthcoming digital web series called Seed. He's a multiple Tele Award-winning filmmaker, entrepreneur, researcher, published author, artist, internationally recognized talk radio, public speaker.
Hey, Stan, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so first of all, how in the world did you get into all of this prophecy stuff? Tell us about Rob.
Well, I grew up in a Christian family. I was saved when I was 7 years old. I accepted Christ at a young age. My dad was actually a Baptist minister when I was a kid, so I was in church my whole life. I grew up in a Baptist church, so it was Wednesday nights, Sunday morning, Sunday school, Sunday morning service, Sunday night service. So I pretty much lived in the church, and actually was instrumental in starting what we called the God Squad in my secular school. There's several of us that we would meet together and have Bible studies in school and invite our friends and pray together in the morning and stuff like that, and then joined the Army, and some of the God Squad from high school went with me into the Army, so we continued that in the military, and I was in the military for 8 years, and in all that time, we're always studying the Scripture and stuff, and like many people, we become fascinated with the end times, especially, when you serve in the military and you see the rumors of wars that are taking place all around the world, and the idea that you may end up being in one of them, it makes you take notice of some of the things that Jesus said regarding the last days. And, of course, Matthew 24, one of the signs of the end times is wars or rumors of wars, and it seems like there's more and more every year we're hearing about. So I've kind of always been into that, but as a side note, as a kid in 5th grade, they were trying to teach me the theory of evolution, and I raised my hand and I said, well, if we came from monkeys, how come they're still monkeys? And my teacher couldn't answer the question, at least not to my satisfaction. So I asked again in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I asked every year, and something weird happened between 8th grade and my freshman year of high school. You have that little summer vacation, we get back to school, freshman year, they drop the word theory. And all of a sudden they're just teaching it as a fact, evolution. They weren't saying the theory of evolution anymore, they're just calling it evolution. And so I asked the question again. I thought, wow, you guys improved a lot over the summer vacation, so I'm really anxious to get an answer to something I've been wondering about for a while. If we came from monkeys, apes, chimpanzee, pick one, why do those things still exist? And they could never, again, answer my question to my satisfaction. So I actually became, in a sense, a rebel in my science class, because I really armed myself to the teeth with regard to creation. And Dr. Kent Hovind was somebody that really inspired me. He came through town and preached a week-long seminar at our little Baptist church in Massachusetts, and I got all of his materials. And then Dr. Carl Baugh and Henry Morris and all these other creationists, I had all of their tapes and CDs and videos and everything. And so I would just challenge the teacher in my science class, and it got to the point where the kids in class were listening more to me than they were to the teacher, and the teacher got a little bit frustrated by that and tried to really nail me with the tests. And I became savvy to what he was doing, so they would ask, the question would be something like, well, what is the age of the Earth? And so realizing what he was doing, I put, well, according to the textbook, 4.6 billion years, despite the fact that blah, 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 and then I put my editorial comment after that. So I still got the answer right. Just drove the teacher crazy. And of course, when you start studying the creation account, you can't get away from the flood. I mean, that's such a big deal in explaining fossils and the geological column and all of that stuff. And you can't study the flood without acknowledging what happens in Genesis 6, verses 1 through 4, with angels mating with humans. So yeah, I've kind of been in that research most of my life, really, but it intensified back in 2010 when the Lord called my wife and I out of the ministry that we were in. We met at an international missions organization, and we were called out to do what I'm doing now, which is to create this TV series called Seed, which is a science fiction television series. It's designed to be a digital web series, actually, but it's fact-based fiction. So in order to get ready for the fiction, I had to lay the foundation with the nonfiction. So I started writing the books regarding the nonfiction that the science fiction will be based on. So That's where the two books that I've got out now, Babylon Rising and The First Shall Be Last, and Archon Invasion, The Rise, Fall, and Return of the Nephilim, those are two out of about five that I intend to release. I'm still working on polishing up the other ones, but it all deals with the end times, and it deals with the creation account, and it really deals with how the Nephilim play a part in all of this. And what shocked me was when most of the people that I studied, and I came from the paradigm that was the Hal Lindsey and Tim LaHaye crowd. I'm not really on that page anymore, but that's what I grew up with. And I had all their timeline charts and all that stuff, but I used to preach about it and write scripts about it and all that. I realized none of these guys incorporated the Nephilim into the equation, and they didn't really deal much with Nimrod either. They're all pre-trib also, which I'll confess, for about 40 years of my life. 44 now, so the last 4 years have been, God has sort of steadily been moving me off of that page, and now I'm completely off of it, and actually subscribed to the one position that I thought was the most ludicrous of all and could never see happening, which is in pre-wrath. That's sort of where I am now, but yeah, I mean, when you add in the Nephilim to the equation, that variable changes everything. So I had to basically throw out all the charts that I used to have, and it's been kind of a paradigm shift for me for the last 4 to 5 years or so. But that's where we are today. And
go back to the question of your call. Now, was this just something you felt like you needed to do, or do you have an angel visit, or exactly how did you get the call to serve full time?
Sure. Well, in 2004, I got hired at the International Missions Organization, and that came, I believe, as a result of August of 2003. I laid my dream down that I had since I was 7 years old. I told you earlier I got saved when I was 7, but that same year, Star Wars came out and blew my young mind. I was like, whoa, I saw it 13 times in the theater the first year it came out. And I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life from that young age. I said, I'm either going to be an astronaut, a filmmaker, a movie star, or dead by the time I'm 30. Now, I declared that when I was like 7, 8 years old. And it wasn't that I had a death wish. It was just that at 8 years of age, 30 is like ancient, So I figured if I hadn't achieved any of those dreams by the time I was 30, it had to be because I was dead. So, that was the only reason I thought that way. But so that was really the reason why I joined the military in the first place, is because my first dream was to be an astronaut. And I had learned that the astronauts had learned how to fly the lunar lander by learning how to fly helicopters. And my dad was a helicopter pilot, and he was still in the Army at the time, so part of it was following in his footsteps. But it was actually a means to an end. I wanted to learn helicopters first, which I did. And then my plan was to transition into the Air Force, fly jets, and work my way into NASA. But and I was top of my class. I had all of my ducks in a row every single time, ready to go, school dates and everything. But 4 times, something would happen that would kick me out of my slot and not make it possible for me. So I finally realized, okay, this is just being blocked. I'm doing everything I can, but it's just not working. So I got out and then pursued acting and started several community theater groups, traveled around the country with a theater group, actually with Alvin and the Chipmunks, believe it or not. David Seville, so I traveled all over the country yelling, "Alvin!" That was me. But that led to a number of other opportunities and things, and really got me fired up to want to do more of the filmmaking side than the acting. I enjoy the acting, I love it, but I really wanted to do the writing and the directing and creation of projects. And so I started writing theatrical plays, did a lot of theatrical plays back in the 90s, and then God started steering me towards the big, picture screen type screenplays, and so I started writing those. But I chased that dream relentlessly through my late 20s and early 30s, to the point where it led me to being broke, homeless, divorced, bankrupt, and ready to put a bullet in my head.
Oh, no.
In 2003, I was living in a Dodge Stratus with everything I owned in it by that time. I got to within a signature of a $70 million contract back in the late 90s, 1999, 2000. They fell apart, and that just led to a domino effect where everything in my life fell apart. And
so how did you get into Bible prophecy and then what you're going to talk on, mythology, UFOs, and the strong delusion?
I was a broken man, so I laid it down and said, okay, Lord, if I never make a movie, I don't care. I'll do whatever you want. And that was August of 2003, and that's when he escorted me into the ministry as a filmmaker. Actually, I was a traveling filmmaker for missionaries, traveled all over the world, 15 countries in 6.5 years. But then it says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. These dreams that he gives you, even though you lay them down, when you put the kingdom first, he gives the dreams back to you. And so he basically laid out an offer for me in 2009. He said, remember that dream you laid down 6 years ago? Yeah. You want it back? I don't know, Lord. It's kind of scary. I mean, I tried it once, and he said, well, you tried it your way. Let's try it my way. I said, okay. And long story short, he led me to the desert of Arizona for 5 days in late 2009, early 2010, and that's where he essentially downloaded everything that we're going to talk about today and through the course of our radio broadcasts and this TV series. He downloaded 72 episodes into my head in the desert of Arizona, and I had just to put a cap on it, I had a Abraham Moses type experience alone with God in the desert 2 hours north of Tucson, and so.
You're not going by that one so quick. Let's hear the experience.
Okay, I didn't know I was going with it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, he started putting signs in front of me saying, hey, I'm giving this dream to you. But I was pretty shell-shocked after the horrors of 2003, And so, but I started to write. I started writing the script, and in my story, it's very science fiction. I pitched it as Lost meets Battlestar Galactica wrapped up in an X-Files. So it has elements that made all those shows popular. Of course, written from a biblical worldview, but I'm going to serve it on a secular palate. So it's not going to be preachy. It's going to be intriguing. It's going to be planting seeds that the good Christian can water when his unsaved friend watches the show. So I start writing the script. And in this story, my main character gets zapped out of time and space, essentially. He's a war veteran. He was in Iraq looking for weapons of mass destruction. This is pre-invasion of the United States, so it's 2002.
Okay, now, and this has to do with your desert experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my character is in Iraq, and he gets zapped out of Iraq, and he ends up in another desert 7 years later. He's zapped through time and space. And so I'm writing this story, and I'm thinking about the budget and how I'm going to shoot it and everything. So I'm looking for locations in Texas that would fit.
We'll be right back after this message. I debated Daryl Dumas for 3 hours, and I used 308 scriptures to show you that when the Bible says that the Lord descends from heaven with a shout, voice, trump, and dead rises, all these are describing that Jesus burns the tares and sinners at the seventh trumpet when all dead rise all the way back to Adam. Then we meet the Lord of the year, and the angels rapture us to our mansions. Perhaps for the first time, without doubt, you will finally see that the pre, mid, and pre-wrath rapture theories are wrong. You will see scriptural proof that the post-trib rapture is accurate. This DVD may save your salvation. It will help you to never deny Jesus. It's the Rapture Debate offer at 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. That's 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. This may help you keep your salvation. Lindsey Williams has done it again. He's come out with another awesome DVD, this one entitled Health Tips from the Elite. Did you know that no president of the United States has ever died from cancer? Why? What do they know that you don't? President Ronald Reagan was diagnosed with colon cancer when he was president. He imported a substance that was illegal to be used in the United States at the time. He never had a reoccurrence. There is no reason to suffer from cancer, heart disease, diabetes, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, hepatitis C, hormonal imbalance, vascular disease, immunological imbalance. It's all in the new DVD, Health Tips from the Elite, not available on the internet. You gotta call 785-266-1112. That's 785-266-1112. Health Tips from the Elite. The Prophecy Club is having a summer blowout. You get 6 DVDs of your choice valued at $180 for a gift of $100. Not available on the internet. You gotta call 785-266-1112 to place your order. That's 6 Prophecy Club DVDs for a gift of $100. Call 785-266-1112. Get yourself informed. Don't let the tricks of the devil deceive you. Get 6 DVDs for a gift of $100. Call 785-266-1112. And now, back to the program.
I'm writing this story, and I'm thinking about the budget and how I'm going to shoot it and everything. So I'm looking for locations in Texas that would fit Iraq, that I could shoot it here but make it look like it's there. And when I realized that he gets zapped out of that environment, gets put someplace else, I thought, okay, where does he end up? And so I was on Google Earth, just looking for locations on Google Earth. And I found this really strange location in the desert 2 hours north of Tucson. And I marked it. I was like, man, that's weird. And wrote about it. I wrote a script. My character ends up there. And I'm just writing based on what I saw on Google Earth. And then a couple of days later, God basically said to me, hey, you want to go check that place out? And I didn't have a lot of money, but Delta Airlines sent me an email saying, hey, you've been globetrotting, you've been all over the planet, on Delta. You've got a lot of sky miles. You better use them or you're going to lose them. I was like, okay. So they basically paid for my free trip to Arizona. I said to my wife, I said, Delta is offering me free tickets. I think I should go location scouting and check this place out that I've been writing about. She said, yeah, go for it. So that's what I did. I went out there, and man, this is the way my day would start. I would say, Lord, this is amazing. I mean, this was like December 2009. It was gorgeous there. It was like 70 degrees, mountains. I love the mountains. I grew up in the mountains of New England. So I'm just like in euphoria just by looking outside the window, And I get in the car, and I'm just so happy. I'm like, wow, God, this is great. I said, Lord, I invite you into this car. Come sit with me. I ask you to write this story through me. Let me be your oracle. I want you to do this. Just point me in the direction, and let's have a little adventure together. And he did. I mean, I didn't actually see somebody sitting next to me, but I could feel a tangible presence in my car that I believe God did. Come sit with me in that rental car. And he would nudge me every now and then and say, hey, look at that. And I had just prayed, Lord, write the story through me. Let me be your oracle. He says, look at the road that you're on. And I looked up, and it was Highway 77. So I thought, oh, that's cool. God's number 7, And then we get to a red light, and he nudged me again. He says, look at the name of Highway 77 in Tucson. And I looked at the name, and it's Oracle Road. I'm like, oh, man. Okay, Lord. Cool. And like the whole trip was like that. We're just crazy, what we may call serendipitous encounters would happen. But, I mean, he took me out to this black hole-like thing that was out in the desert, which I saw on Google Earth. I thought it was a black hole, but it was actually a reservoir of some sort. But it was way out in the middle of nowhere, and it had a barbed wire fence around the top of it. So it was like a crater with a reservoir in it and a barbed wire fence around it. And that's what sent my mind going in many different directions with my story. And I had weird encounters with black helicopters flying over me at night and just all kinds of stuff. He took me down from there to Tombstone, Arizona.
Whoa. So what about the reservoir? Barbed wire fence around it?
Well, I can't give it all away. That's script 1, man.
Okay, so some good stuff there you discovered.
Yeah, so you're gonna have
in
to,
the real life, right?
Start praying for the TV series to be developed, and then you'll get to know what the reservoir is all about.
Okay, all right.
So my main character needs to get from that location to Dallas because that's where most of the story is going to take place. So I thought, well, how does he get from there to Dallas? So I start looking on the map for routes back to Dallas, And, he's out in the middle of the desert, so he has to hitchhike. And so I start writing stories about people, picking him up and everything. And I wanted him to get from that desert location to Tombstone, but he had to get dropped off in Tucson first. And I thought, well, why does he get dropped off? And where does he get dropped off? And I'm looking at the map where 77 connects to, I think it's Highway 10, if I remember right. On the map, it was just this tiny little spur of a road, but it was unmarked. On the map, it was this cheesy little map you get from Enterprise, so it wasn't very detailed. So I thought, well, I'm going to go find that. And I'm listening to Steve Quayle and Tom Horn talk about the Nephilim. I had a CD box set that I bought from Tom Horn's website. And they're talking about Apollo, and they're talking about, Nephilim in the last days and everything. And so I'm listening to this, and Steve Quayle's saying, hey, we are sons of the living God. As believers in Christ, we have power. We have Christ living within us, the Holy Spirit, and we can take these things on, like David and Joshua and Caleb, And he's saying that we are princes of the kingdom, And Tom's talking about Apollo and stuff. And well, while they're saying that, I pull up to a red light on the intersection of Highway 77, Oracle Road, and Prince. And so they're talking about how we are sons of God and God is the king and we are princes and blah, blah, blah. And I'm at this intersection of 77 and Prince, and I look across the street, and there's a sign for Apollo College. And people don't believe me, can go to Arizona and find it for themselves. But I was there, and I'm like, whoa! So then I drive a little forward, and I find that little spur of a road that connects to Highway 10, and it turns out the name of that road is Miracle Road. So, I mean, the whole trip was like this, weird signs and serendipitous moments and stuff like that, and then, God brought me down to Tombstone, where I had written that my character's father was part of Project Bluebeam. I don't know how much you know about Project Bluebeam. Essentially, in a nutshell, it's a government project to essentially beam the second coming into the clouds, or anything they want to. They could put images in the clouds and make holographic images that people would believe are true, in this sign conquer kind of thing. Well, apparently that project was started in Fort Huachuca. Well, so I had written that my character's dad worked as a colonel at Fort Huachuca, but I didn't know, I hadn't really done any in-depth study on where Fort Huachuca was. So as I'm driving down the Tombstone to scout out the location where my character's father lives, I see signs for Fort Huachuca. And I'm like, whoa, that's here too? And I get to basically the intersection of Highway 10, I think it was Benson, if I remember right, and then it goes south to Tombstone from that highway. Well, it's kind of right there at that intersection where Fort Huachuca is. And there's all these huge satellite dishes and stuff, right there out in the desert at that location. So I make note of that. And then I go down to Tombstone, and it's a very small town. I mean, you're like, the main drag is like, okay, here's the OK Corral. Oh, here's the King Solomon Masonic Lodge. That's interesting. So I keep driving, and I'm asking the Lord, okay, Father, where does Zach, is my main character, where does his dad live? And the side streets are like 1st, 2nd, 3rd Street. They're numbered. And he says to me, his dad lives off of 9th Street. So I'm like around 4th Street when I hear that. And I'm like, okay, 9th Street. So I drive down to 9th Street. I take a left, go down the street, and the road comes to a stop sign. And as I got to the stop sign, I look across the valley, and it's an amazing view of desert with mountains in the distance. But it looked like the mountains were on fire on the one side. And I'm like, what is that? And it took me just a few minutes to realize it wasn't the mountain was on fire. It was a huge yellow moon, full moon, coming up over the horizon. And it popped up. I'm like, wow. Oh, yeah, Zach's dad lives down there. Well, just a little backstory. If people go to seedtheseries.com, they can watch the trailer. And in the trailer, they see that my main character has an encounter with the fallen angel Azazel, who is the one who, the Book of Enoch says that the archangel Raphael is to bind Azazel in chains and put him in a cave called Dudiel. And in my story, my characters come across the cave of Dudiel, encounter Azazel, and get zapped out. Well, when I look down to the valley, and I'm about ready to turn off on 9th Street to go down to that little trailer park area that's down there, God basically nudges me again and says, look at the name of the road. And I look up, and it's El Camino San Rafael, the road of St. Raphael. So I'm like, whoa, that's just crazy, because I had just figured out that Zach's dad lives down there, and the whole reason he's there is because he has encountered Azazel, who was put in the desert by Raphael.
Okay, I hate to interrupt, because I don't think I've ever let a guest just go and tell us about herself, but I couldn't cut you off. It was so interesting. But you didn't get to tell us anything about what you're going to be talking on. So, folks, you got to tune into the next broadcast to hear more about it. But I'd like for you to take about the next 90 seconds and just tell us a little bit about the 3 topics you're going to talk on when you come to the Prophecy Club.
Excellent. Yeah, well, all of this stuff is led into the research that I'll be talking about. And I'm going to be talking about mythology and the coming great deception and UFOs and stuff like that. And how does mythology actually relate to the Bible, or how does the Bible relate with mythology? What is the interaction? Which I think some people are going to find very, very interesting. And that's one talk. And the other talk is going to be on the rise of Babylon. And we're going to be talking about 322 and tetrad cycles that are coming up in the future and stuff like that related to the last days. And then the new topic that we just kind of came up with that we're going to talk about on Sunday, I guess, is 2045 and man's quest for immortality through transhumanism.
He's going to be speaking Saturday afternoon, July 20th, from 2 to 5 p.m., and then that evening from 7 to 10:30, and then the next morning beginning at 9:30. Now, the 2 evening talks are both Prophecy Club talks, and there's where we ask a gift of $10 at the door. But if you come to church the next morning, of course, there's nothing at the door for that. So do encourage you to come on out. It's on the corner of Park and K. It's there in the strip mall right behind the Whataburger, corner Park and K in Plano. The dates again, Saturday, July 20th, 2 to 5 and 7 to 10:30. The next morning at 9:30. Spirit of Prophecy Church Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue, corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. And you can visit us at the Prophecy Club website, prophecyclub.com, where you can find out about how you can get these new 3 DVDs that he's going to be making. They are, by title, Mythology, UFOs, and Strong Delusion, The Rise of Babylon, 322 Tetrads, and The Time of Jacob's Trouble. Both of those for a gift of $40. And since we didn't come up with making the third one until just now, what we're going to do with that one, 2045, the year becomes immortal. But anyway, hey, Rob, appreciate you being on. And folks, tune in and listen to him tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And yes, thank you for your gifts of support. God bless.
Prayerfully consider supporting the Prophecy Club with your gifts of support. We would not be here without your prayers and generous financial support.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. I debated Daryl Dumas for 3 hours, and I used 308 scriptures to show you that when the Bible says that the Lord descends from heaven with a shout, voice, trump, and dead rises, all these are describing that Jesus burns the tares and sinners at the 7th trumpet, when all dead rise all the way back to Adam. Then we meet the Lord of the air, and the angels rapture us to our mansions. Perhaps for the first time, without doubt, you will finally see that the pre, mid, and pre-wrath rapture theories are wrong. You will see scriptural proof that the post-trib rapture is accurate. This DVD may save your salvation. It will help you to never deny Jesus. It's the Rapture Debate offer at 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. That's 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. This may help you keep your salvation. The April gift offer is a double DVD set. First, in Genesis Secrets and the End Times, C.K. Quarterman covers what Elohim will do next. Ancient high technology, firmament and the sea of glass, sons of God and the Nephilim, Noah's genetic code, stargates, and the Tower of Babel. Then, in Fallen Angels, Giants, UFOs, and Prophecy, his topics are End Times and Noah, Gap Creationism, Sons of God Mating Today, Giants, again, Unseen Elite Controllers, Genetics of the Antichrist, Origins of Demons, UFOs, Genesis to Revelation, and the New World Order Plan. It's a double DVD package valued at $60 for a gift of just $45 at prophecyclub.com. Just spell prophecy with a C. It's the April gift offer at prophecyclub.com. As prophecy students, we know an emergency is heading our way, and the average person can go over 30 days without food, but no more than 3 days without clean water. In the event of an emergency, you must have clean water almost immediately. One of the primary causes of death in emergencies is not lack of food, but rather drinking contaminated water. You can run water from a mud puddle through a Berkey and drink it. You can have clean water when others are getting sick from drinking bug-infested water. Your filter must work without pressurized water or electricity, which is why the missionaries choose Berkey. You can get a Go Berkey for $139, but I recommend you get the Royal Berkey with 4 filters for $364. I personally use the Crown with 8 filters for all my daily water needs. A Royal Berkey looks like a large stainless steel coffee pot, 9 inches wide by 20 inches tall, with 4 black filters. It processes over a gallon an hour for a gift of $364. Call 785-266-1112. Ask for the Royal Berkey, 785-266-1112, or the Crown Berkey with 8 filters. Or see the entire line of Berkeys by going to prophecyclub.com. The Prophecy Club is having a summer blowout. You get 6 DVDs of your choice valued at $180 for a gift of $100. Not available on the internet. You gotta call 785-266-1112 to place your order. That's 6 Prophecy Club DVDs for a gift of $100. Call 785-266-1112. Get yourself informed. Don't let the tricks of the devil deceive you. Get 6 DVDs for a gift of $100. Call 785-266-1112.